Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm really honored to be joining everybody here on stage and in the audience this morning for the last scheduled press conference of my tenure as mayor. And I wanted this official Metro government acknowledgement of this history and this injustice and this recognition to be my last public act as Louisville's 50th mayor, symbolizing, I hope, how the march toward justice is never over, but we must pursue it till our last breath.
Here, here.
It is beyond time to rectify the official misdeeds of our past, but not so late that an apology doesn't matter. Contrition, reconciliation, and action must happen so all Louisvillians may step together into a more equitable and equal future built upon an honest acknowledgement of the past. Today's announcement, along with this Wednesday's unveiling of the historical marker in Jefferson Square Park to mark the 2020 racial justice protest, move us forward as a city and as a country. Moving us forward on a journey that will likely never be over, but one that, paraphrase Dr. Martin Luther King, bends toward justice. Today's ceremony to honor the Black Six is being held not to wipe the slate clean, but to officially correct the record about 6 black Louisvillians who were falsely charged with fomenting racial violence in our city in 1968 and slandered for years after when they were, in fact, only reacting to official misconduct and discrimination by the city powers to be at that time. A historical marker we will unveil in a few minutes this morning shares a story about the Black Six, and the marker reads, in May of 1968, a traffic stop of a black school teacher, Charles Thomas, turned violent, leading to a Louisville police officer suspension, firing, then reinstatement. The reinstatement touched off days of civil unrest after a peaceful rally at 28th and Greenwood in the Parkland neighborhood. The National Guard was called in to restore peace. 6 black Americans, who later became known as the Black Six, were scapegoated and falsely charged with conspiracy in connection with the unrest and faced additional accusations of planning to blow up oil refineries in the West End and destroy private property. Members of the Black Six were Ruth Bryant, James Cortez, Walter T. Pete Cosby, Samuel Hawkins, Manfred Reed, and Robert Kuyu Sims. Some of them barely knew each other, lost their livelihoods, and suffered irreparable harm to their reputations. The criminal conspiracy charges against them were dismissed in 1970 when Judge S. Rush Nicholson directed a verdict of acquittal, citing a lack of evidence, and threw the case out of Criminal Court 2, which was then located on Congress Alley. In 2022, Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher issued an apology on behalf of the city to members of the Black Six and their families for the harm inflicted upon them. This marker is dedicated to the Black Six, whose struggle taught us to never give up the battle for dignity and justice. Back in May, at a Fraser History Museum discussion about the Black Six, it was an incredible discussion, a panel discussion, and I was just attending as an interested citizen. I asked whether they had ever received an apology for what happened to them at the hands of the city. And much to my dismay, no apology, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing had ever been offered. I guess I should not have been surprised, because for too long, government and its institutions have harmed many of the people that they're supposed to protect and elevate, particularly black Americans. Now, I was not mayor in 1968, but I have represented the institution of the city government of Louisville for these past 12 years. So that evening, during that discussion, and on behalf of the city, I apologize to the Black Six for the grievous wrongs of the government toward them. So that brings us to today. I want to thank Joy McAtee. Where's Joy? For Joy leads our Leading to Louisville effort, and she, along with Rachel Platt, were moderating that discussion. And after that discussion, we said we need to do something more formal about this, and Joy has been leading that effort inside of Metro government. So Joy, you're a good lady. Thank you so much. So before we go outside to unveil the Black Six marker, I want to share this platform of city government with the surviving members of the Black Six, some of their family members, other participants and representatives of those who were part of the story as it happened and since it happened. So first, let's welcome an incredible public servant, and that's the chairman emeritus of the Louisville Metro Housing Authority, who's become a dear friend over the years that I so admire. We call him the chairman. Please welcome Manfred Reed.
Good morning. Good morning. I want to thank everybody for being here. I am so humbled that we have an opportunity to be able to reminisce on the past, look to the future, and rebuild our infrastructure for social, economic, and political development. This mayor has been a great friend, a supporter of not only the Black Six, but the community at large, in trying to bring about transition, reconciliation, and hope. We regret the fact that he won't be here. We need him. We do look forward to a new administration who has committed itself to be able to advance the causes and to promote housing, economic development, and social reform. The victims of this tragedy look forward to reconciliation, reparation, and economic growth throughout the area, throughout the whole metro community. But the area of greatest need, where we have loss of value in terms of home ownership, loss of home ownership, loss of land and land use rights. So we got a challenge to meet the future, to rebuild, to hope, and to bring back the prosperity that we knew in the 1960s. I thank y'all very, very much, and I appreciate you for coming.
Ruth Bryant was a member of the Black Six, and what a legacy she produced through her presence in our city and through her daughter, a great public servant, former Louisville Metro Councilwoman Sherry Bryant.
Thank you, Mayor Fisher. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. On behalf of my late mother, Ruth Booker Bryant, and my entire family and her friends, I want to thank Mayor Fisher for the bold actions he has undertaken this year by offering a public apology, not once, but twice, in fact, on behalf of city government to the Black Six, and calling the attention of the entire community to the injustice they endured and was inflicted upon them and their families 50 years ago by the powers that be, with the installation of the marker, which will be unveiled shortly. My mother majored in history in college and became a permanent substitute teacher in the Louisville Public Middle Schools, teaching social studies. So I know how much she would appreciate this marker, which will be an excellent opportunity, not just for young people, but for all of the community to ask questions and learn about what and how this happened. Because for most people today, it's a distant memory, or they weren't born or never heard about the Black Six and what happened in this community in 1968. But as the late Alderwoman Lois Morris, my mentor, used to say, but you gotta know the history. My mother was a member of the West End Community Council with her friend and neighbor, Ann Braden. And in 1963, she founded Women United for Social Action. In February of 1964, when my mother was just 40 years old, She was appointed by the Mayor William O. Calgar to the Citizens Advisory Committee for Community Development. Her role as a community member was to be informed by the administration of federal dollars coming in, programs, activities that were going to take place in the community, and to inform the administration on the needs of the community for improvements in housing, education, planning, public facilities, zoning, urban renewal, church, and minority problems. It was to be a two-way street of communications. As a member of the West End Community Council, she worked closely with the mothers who lived in the Southwick public housing development, helping to address and bring to the attention of the advisory committee their needs and concerns. What she learned at the advisory committee, such as the war on poverty, dollars coming into the community, she took back to the council. And what she had learned and observed of the needs of the community at the council, she took back to the advisory committee for a hopeful resolution. She had a seat at the table, and she was going to be heard. She took this role and responsibility on the advisory committee very seriously. She was very vocal and outspoken and unafraid to speak truth to power. She was often a thorn in the side of the administration. In 1967, 3 years later, she was one of only 2 women on the Committee of Open Housing, working with the Reverend A.D. King, Reverend W.J. Hodge, to develop strategies to get an open housing ordinance passed by the Board of Aldermen. In the open housing movement, she was closely involved with Sam Hawkins and Bob Kuyu Sims in coordinating the nightly demonstrations and marches on Mayor Smead's home and his furniture business, as well as the homes of the members of the Board of Aldermen, in order to dramatize the need for passage of an open housing ordinance with teeth. Early in '68, my mother, Sam, and Kuyu organized BULK, the Black Unity League of Kentucky, to get Black history taught in the public schools and on the college campuses throughout Kentucky. When the civil disturbance broke out on May 27, 1968 in the Parkland neighborhood, the powers that be looked for scapegoats to blame it on. My mother was just 45 years old, and she was charged with conspiracy to not just destroy the buildings that were vandalized and burned at 28th and Greenwood, but also plotting to blow up the oil refineries across and down the street from the family homes she shared with her husband and 4 children. I'm so glad to see Dr. Bob Douglas here today, as he was a dear friend of my mother and encouraged her to keep a journal after she, surprisingly enough, found herself indicted later in September of that year. So I know how much what is happening here today would have meant to her. This history is finally being told and will not be forgotten or swept under the rug again. In closing, after the 6 defendants were acquitted in 1970 of July, a TV reporter asked her what she thought about the whole thing. She told them that it never should have happened and that she had hoped that this was the last time anything like this happened in Louisville. 2 years later, in July of 1972, she filed $1 million damage suit in federal district court against all those whose names appeared in the indictment of conspiracy to deprive her of her rights and malicious prosecution. She sued Mayor Kenneth Smead, Police Chief C.J. Hyde, Commonwealth Attorney Edmund Sharon, and the 4 police officers who also perjured themselves in helping to bring the indictment. The case didn't finally get before the court until 1973 with the help of her attorney, Bill Allison. And although not successful in her appeal on the federal court decision, the case, she said, will make them think twice before they try this on others. In her journal, she wrote the comments she spoke at her press conference when she announced her lawsuit and stated, "I feel this suit is important because the whole train of thought which led to the conspiracy trial was conceived in an atmosphere of hysteria and scapegoating with total contempt for the basic legal rights of those who were eventually tried. Even though there was an acquittal, it alone is not enough. I filed this damage suit because there must be a strong response from the aggrieved to assure that the basic constitutional rights of the citizens of this Commonwealth, and especially those of Black people, will never again be violated in such a market. This marker will hopefully encourage the community to learn the lessons only the past can teach, and to remind us of the importance of showing up, speaking up, and fighting against injustice anywhere so that our basic constitutional rights will never again be violated. Thank you again, Mayor Fisher, for helping to call attention to this injustice the Black Six suffered, and for helping to keep this history alive. Thank you.
Now next, we're going to hear from Walter Cosby, son of Walter Pete Cosby.
You gotta excuse me, but I'm a godly and biblical man, so to God be the glory for what is being done here. It's hard sometimes for this 63-year-old man to go back and rehearse the wounds of that 10-year-old boy. So we won't do that today. To Joy McAtee, to, Vita Morgan, and to Rachel Black, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And to this man here, who has allowed the Spirit of God to rest upon his shoulders, to be who I will now call the Good Samaritan, not my Fisher. You're a Good Samaritan to me, because when the Good Samaritan seen a guy laying on the ground that had been wounded and beat up and abused and taken advantage of, he didn't just step over. Not to speak ill of the other mayors that have stepped over, but a lot of them just stepped over. This particular mayor had the audacity to reach down and help and take them to the end. He took the Black Six to the end. That's what this man did. And by leaving them, I know he had a city to run, but he left them at the end and told the end people to make them well, make them whole. And if there's anything else that needs to be done, charge it to my account. So man, as you leave your office, you can't leave this job undone. You've got us to the innkeeper, and we are so grateful for that. But check back on us and make sure that we've been made whole and been made well. May God bless you and keep you. I speak on my father's behalf. He never said a word ill about the Black Six experience. I'm not mad at the city. I'm not mad at the administration. He never brought it up. But I praise God for this opportunity today. You have brought truth to light. God bless you.
Please welcome former Jefferson County Commissioner and political activist Dolores Delahanty, whose husband was Robert Kuyu Sims' attorney, Robert Delahanty. So we had you up here. Yeah, okay, sorry, buddy. Okay, the Delahanty family is in the house.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here and speak on behalf of the Delahanty family. My mom, Dolores, is here. My sister, my daughter, etc. Tim, I won't forget you either. You know, it was quite an experience growing up during this time frame. My dad, God rest in peace, was one of the attorneys for the Black Six, and I will have to say this, I have a legal background also, and I was so amazed at the group of attorneys that stood up and represented these fine gentlemen and Sherry's mom. It was truly a legal dream team. Ben Show, Neville Tucker, Dan Taylor, Bill Allison, who is here and will speak to you about his experiences, and then Bob. You know, during that time frame, the boys, the family, was too young to really be involved in the situation, but we learned through my dad, the tragedy that occurred and what this team of legal experts did for these gentlemen. And the Commonwealth was overwhelmed. They just didn't know that such a team could be put together for these fine people. And at every turn, except one now, I mean, when there was a motion granted to move the case to Hart County, which truly would have been terrible, they fought, and they used the newspaper, they used legal tactics to move the case back to Jefferson County. And they knew, and Bill knew, the best way to win a criminal case is to keep it from getting to a jury. And they did everything in their power to do so, and they presented such a fine case to David's late father, Judge Nicholson, dismissed the case before he got to a jury, finding that there was absolutely no proof that Ruth or the five gentlemen had anything to do with insurrection, conspiracy, etc. And while we're here to honor the Black Six, we're also here to honor the attorneys that helped them through this terrible experience. And I'll say this on behalf of Bob. Not only was he their attorney, he was their friend. He was in the courtroom and he was out on the streets with them. And Mom held us together, took care of everything while Bob, and Bob was gone a lot because he put his heart and soul, and it was one of his proudest achievements to have this acquittal. And I want to thank Sam, who's been a family friend forever. We're at his birthdays, he's at our gatherings, he's such a fine man. And Manfred, for what was done to you in your business, in your life, thank God that you're strong enough to be here and still fighting the fight. But it was terrible what they did to the business history of the Black community. And I'm just so proud. Thank you.
Now on the legal team a little bit here. Before Sam, we're going to come back to you to kind of wrap it together here. We got birthday boy in the house. 80 years old today, Bill Allison. Who knew about that? So please welcome the former ACLU, Kentucky, and defense attorney, Bill Allison.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I was a mere just out of law school when I came to work for the Southern Conference Educational Fund, which was Ann and Carl Braden's organization. And they were a Southwest civil rights group and were very instrumental in raising awareness about the racial injustice of the arrest of the Black Six, and had fought for open housing, and they asked me to come on in and be one of the lawyers to assist Dan Taylor at the time in representing Cortez. So I was more like, I carried the legal papers for these great lawyers, and enjoyed it. It was a tremendous thing to watch, but in the eye of the hurricane, you don't understand that. It was, I think that folks don't understand unless it hits you what happens when you are indicted and arrested for crimes that you never committed, and it goes on for several years. In this case, bounced around to Hart County and back, and different judges. And the lawyers, I won't mention them again, but they were very outstanding people. A lot of times lawyers get treated, in the media pretty rough, and sometimes they deserve it. But there are lawyers who work for nothing because the issues were so important and so just, so righteous. And that's what happened in this case. And none of them gave up. And so they should be remembered and honored for the work they did. And today is, we need to honor the mayor. We've been through several mayors since the 1960s. but this was the first mayor who made an official apology. And that is very hard for politicians and elected officials to do, very hard. And so he should be honored for that, and I commend him for that. One final thing, and it was not just the lawyers, and of course the rock star of the whole thing was Judge Nicholson, who talk about difficulty when you are in the legal system for a judge to grant a verdict of acquittal after the state puts on their case. That is unheard of. But this judge had the guts and the wherewithal and the fortitude and the insight to do that. And when we walked out that day, and there's that great picture that caught us at the outside, that was because Judge Nicholson had the guts to do it. More judges need to do that, and say this is not a case here, and they don't, but he did, and he did that all of his judicial career. But one thing should also be remembered, that the apologies are very important, that wrongs happened, but also people who have gone through the scars that get left. It's not over when you walk out and you've been acquitted after a couple of years of struggle. You carry those struggles, those scars with you the rest of your life. There needs to be compensation, financial and other compensation for people who go through unjust legal battles. And that does happen in some cases around our country, and it needs to happen more, and it should happen for the Black Six. Thank you.
We've got some families in our community that just have generations of service. And the Nicholson family is one of those families. So now Jefferson County Circuit Court Clerk David Nicholson, son of Judge Rush Nicholson, who acquitted the Black Six because of a lack of evidence, is here to speak on his family's behalf.
Yeah, I certainly want to thank Mayor Fisher and Fraser Museum and University of Louisville to finally say the thank you. To finally understand, it's not a surprise though coming from this administration, from this mayor. Because what did he say on day one as he's exiting here after 12 years? City of compassion. That's something, and I have my brother and sister-in-law here, S. Rush Nicholson Jr., here with us today, is that we were always taught, do what's right in your heart. Have faith. And as I look, the courtroom is actually here to my left. It's a beacon of light. It's an open area right here on Congress Alley. And I know as many are smiling down upon us today, they're proud of somewhat the journey that has been made. But this is just a beginning to make a recognition. Our Father loved the law. And that's something that's important, I think, that you have to understand, because there were fine, articulate, intelligent attorneys fighting for these 6 individuals. And his love and understanding of the law, I have many lawyers come to me today that say, your father and I butted heads. I didn't realize it at the time, but he made a lawyer out of me. And I'll simply close by saying that many of you have heard stories or think that it could be a myth, but it's true. There is a tunnel that connected the courthouse to my left to the jail to the right. And as a child, I would come down, during the summers,
to dance court. And I'd be taken over to the jail via the tunnel and eat breakfast. One particular day, had a little commotion there. Right outside my office I was former chairman of the crime commission. At the time, that's where they brought everybody into the jail. And the deputies got sidetracked. I'm sitting there and people were saying, man, they're bringing the men awful young, you know, they're awful young. And, you know, I didn't befriend, but anyway, I'm shaking hands through the cell. Get on the elevator, you didn't shake hands? I said, yeah. I said, oh my God, that's the Black Six, that's Cortez. Of course, I told my dad that night. He said, did he extend his hand? I said, absolutely. He said, did you shake his hand? I said, absolutely. He said, you did the right thing, son. And to this day, I always try to help individuals. So on behalf of the Nicholsons, we are honored to be here, but understand, when you do the right thing, it's a shame it took 50 years to come back and say to those defendants, we apologize, but we're gonna honor you with the marker. So I'm excited to get outside and see the unveiling of the marker. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
I want to recognize former Alderman and Councilwoman Tom Owen, one of our great historians here in the city, for being with us for I want to thank the Deputy Mayor, Ellen Hessen, too. Ellen was pushing behind all this to make sure we got this done here as we're wrapping up our administration. So Ellen, I see you took a good look at I want to recognize Senator Gerald Neal over here. He served our community for a long time.
You know, actually, it's all been said here, but I couldn't sit in that chair and think that this wasn't a powerful exhibition of acknowledgement and a powerful opportunity for reconciliation. It's a powerful moment. And I looked up here and I know all these people, all of my friends. And we've had things happen on various levels with respect that I can't tell you nothing but I'm really feeling good today, and I'm gonna thank this mayor. This mayor had the helm at a very tough time. I'm not going into details on it. But I got to say, I'm a critic. I can be as critical as I can be. I have to say, this mayor stood tall. Do you agree with me? I just want to thank my friends that went through all of that. I was out front. I was at 28th and Greenwood that day at the place, right there at that intersection. It was so vivid in my mind. But I've always known these individuals throughout my life to always been stand-up people, stand up front, didn't bow their back, but stood up for righteousness and justice. Thank you so very much. God bless you.
Sam, we're going to ask you to bring this home. Okay? He's been a man of elegance and grace. Please welcome Sam Hawkins.
I thank everybody for coming today. I see a lot of members. I'm going to go through this. First, I want to say thank you, Rachel, for removing the scale of the past and bringing it to the day where the mayor is justifying what happened through the years. Now, there's a lot of members here, are both members. And what I want to talk about is that every year I have somebody come to me and they say, well, I saw your picture in the paper. I saw you standing on the car. I saw you with your fist clenched and your hand up saying Black Power. And I want to say this to Dr. Andre Skiles back there. Here's what I want to say. I want to say something that you didn't see. I want to say something like Dr. Andre Skiles and myself and Robert Trujillo being in a place called Savannah, Georgia on a dark night when a young white Russian girl and a young black man was walking down the road, and we had to get up at night to go out there to rescue him from the Ku Klux Klan. I want to say that. I want to say something that you didn't see. I want to say something about the brother that just got up and spoke just a while ago. Him and his brother, Sterling. We went to these different meetings throughout these campuses around the state, like the University of Kentucky, when we had a campus meeting with the dean, and we had a campus meeting with the president about athletics, about black history, all of these things that we got up against, we were faced up against, that we tried to make a change. My son went to the University of Kentucky, not University of Kentucky, but Kentucky State. We went to Kentucky State and we tried to we thought it was a black school. No black history there. We stood there before the dean, before the president of the school. He expelled every one of the students off the campus because they wanted to have black history on that school. We also had things like Latanya right there. She was the first secretary for BULK, B-U-L-K, Black Unity League of Kentucky. We were at a demonstration. We were in a car going down the street. The police pulled us over, put shotguns in our face and told us that they would kill us. Let me say this to you, because everybody's been saying, Sam, you need to write this book. Yes, I do. I need to write this book, and I am writing it. Hopefully I can get it out sometime in May or whatever it is I can do. But there's a lot of things that we did. Like Cheryl talking about her mother, Mrs. Bryant. Mrs. Bryant was the founder, along with Father Takow of BULK, Black Unity League of Kentucky. She was the founder. Father Takow was the co-founder of that operation. The only reason why that we are in here today is because of the Black Unity League of Kentucky. Because we come to the defense, we decided to rise up. And what I was saying on that corner that day is like Dr. King spoke of. Rise up, straighten up. That way the man can't ride your back. We were tired. We were tired of being turned down every time we turned around. That we had to get out in the street and march. We had to come to the mayor's office, not your office. We had to come to the mayor's office. We had to fight the chief of police, not physically. We had to march up and down the street. I never forget Mr. Haycraft. A man, he was a paralytic, he had crutches. He was on crutches out there walking every night, being arrested. So there's a lot to what happened to the Black Six. We went out there for this young man right here, Mr. Reed, when they got attacked by a police officer, and then fired him, and then reinstated him. We were angry. So we went out and tried to find help to make citizens in this city see that we could bring in people like Stokely Carmichael to come in here to speak. Unfortunately, he didn't get in here to speak. But everybody is saying, well, what happened out there? Everybody's writing a story about me and what went on. And I can tell you simply, and I don't want to say this funny, but if you want something from the horse, ask the horse from his mouth, not his behind. Okay? So if anybody wants to know what happened with the Black Six and how we got to be where we at, be sure to come to me and I will tell you how. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Joy. And Mary, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, well, we heard about Rachel Platt. Rachel's a strong presence in the community. And it's really cool to see somebody make a transition and reinvent themselves in a way that helps so many people. And Rachel is the Director of Engagement at the Fraser History Museum. It's good to see, especially since the summer of 2020, but before that with the Fraser, these white institutions, primarily white institutions, are embracing Black history now. And we have to do that. When you see these people masquerading as public servants saying they don't want critical race theory, what they're saying is they don't want us to tell the history of our country. It just happens to involve Black people. We can never accept that. Never accept that. So, Rachel, you and the team at the Fraser have been amazing for us. They hosted the program on the Black Six earlier this year, along with Lean Into Louisville, Joy McAtee as the co-host, and the Courier Journal. Well, I should say Pam Platt is here, Rachel's sister, who was with the Courier, that now works in my office in communications. So this is all a holy alliance that some has worked together. And their research and resources were used in retelling the story in a fuller way that had been somewhat dormant in the community, which is sad, but it's not now. And so this is just the beginning of this phase of the journey. Please welcome Rachel Platt.
First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me to be here. And let me say, it is my absolute honor to be here with surviving members of the Black Six, their families, and other key players in this case. Ken Clay, you were part of that discussion as well at the Fraser. I have gotten to know them, their story, their struggle, their spirit, and their hearts. They are courageous and they are resilient. And to say I am in awe would be an understatement, but now it is my honor to call many of them friends. And for that, I will be forever grateful. My education on this case started with that courtroom sketch by Mary Cobb of the Black Six in our exhibit at the Fraser, west of 9th, Race, Reckoning, and Reconciliation. I looked at that picture and realized I didn't know a whole lot about that case. I began doing my homework. The reporter in me was still there, reading and making phone calls, leading to the program that we did back in May with our partners, Lean Into Louisville and Joy McAtee, as well as the Courier Journal, and I know Vita is here, as well as Mary Irby Jones, all committed to the same thing, which is confronting our history. The more I read and learned, the more I realized that our history wasn't so much a thing of the past, but still playing out with those similar themes that I saw: traffic stops, discrimination, and racial injustice. And it was incumbent upon us as partners to hold up the mirror and really look at what happened then and what was happening now, to face things, you know. As James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. We cannot change the past with the Black Six, but we need to face what happened to them, to make the apology, which has been done, to place a marker to share their story, to learn from it, to be better, and to do better. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this important day, and I hope it is a day of change. Thank you.
Okay, we're wrapping up here, so we can go outside. Somebody once said that when you forgive, you free your soul. And when you say, I'm sorry, you free two souls. Some measure of forgiveness had to happen for us to be together here today. And that speaks to the grandeur of the spirit of the people sitting up here. So again, deep apologies, deep admiration for a journey that will never be over. Likewise, I think a lot of souls, including that of our city, have been and will be liberated by revisiting the past with clarity and accuracy, living in the present with an eye toward correction, and welcoming a future of greater racial fairness and equality because of this important work. We will be touching young people here today with this marker and the marker across the street in ways that we don't know. But that's our job, to do good work and help people that we will never know. But let's remember too, if our souls are rested, our feet have miles to go before a fully equitable and equal society. So I thank you for joining us today in continuing that march. Now, let's head out to the 6th Street side of Metro Hall for the unveiling of the marker. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, I know you want to get back to your live stream, but I want to take this minute to talk about Images by Patrick. Hi, I'm Patrick, and I've been a professional photographer for over 25 years, specializing in actors' headshots, professional headshots, family portraits, and much, much more. You can find me at www.imagesbypatrick.photography or find me on Facebook at Images by Patrick and get your image on. Now, back to your live stream.
Are you ready to transform your organization? Chenault Solutions provides capacity building services for leaders and teams ranging from strategic planning, program evaluation, and organization management training. For more information, please visit http://chenault.solutions. Chenault Solutions.
Yeah. Sort of a flat ground. Come on, Mr. Chairman. Come on back this way.
Where is it? Okay.
Legal team, Judge's son, you represented the surviving members of the Black Six as well. The purpose of this march is not just to see your side of the but to be a place of inspiration for us here today, but young people also to see that maybe say legal representation is not going to be done. I'm gonna take it home with me. As a souvenir. So I went.
Barely knew each other, lost their life, and suffered irreparable harm to the criminal conspiracy charges were dismissed in 1970 when Judge S. Rush directed their acquittal, citing the lack of evidence. This case out of criminal court, which was then, sorry.
Oh, I saw her yesterday, you know, dealing with the grandchildren. What's my man? What's up? How you doing? Well, we're gonna get together, man. Yeah? That's my daughter. How you doing? I love your father. Your father is my man. Yeah. Yeah, I met your son before. Yeah. Okay. Good to see you, man.
This way, baby.
Oh, you doing good? Shoot. I feel like you when I grow up.
Eddie, you can stay right here and I'll get the car. Meet you.
Lois,
Sorry. Oh, no, you're fine.
Walter Cosby.
Careful, there's
Is your dad still here? They want to know the shot. Come on down here. Y'all come on out.
appreciate got it. Excuse me. Right here. Oh, nice to see you. What's your name?
Good, wait. Put my slidey drawers on today because my pants keep up. I got on slidey drawers. My mama had on something, but she said this never happened to me. Keep my little underneath shirt. I didn't almost look so bad. And they emailed me a letter. I needed to be there because they emailed me from the last week when I asked all the questions.
Now glance to the right. Y'all look.
Rachel, you looking to the left.
Okay. To your other right.
Hold on 1 second, please. Part-time basis. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
One more. This is for Joy Magazine.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. One time. Excuse me, baby girl. Excuse me. Right here. Go ahead. My name's Joy.
Click.
Thank you so much.
Hey, how you doing? You doing good? Same to you.
Got two and a half young boy. Fantastic. That dude did a great job.
You're not my way. Okay, now we're moving out here.
So we're going to look at the other side of this plaque and show the first sign.
Sun is made up of the sun. The moon is made up of the moon.
In May 1968, a traffic stop of a black school teacher, Charles Thomas, turned violent, leading to a Louisville police officer's suspension, firing, then reinstatement. The reinstatement touched off days of civil unrest after a peaceful rally at 28th and Greenwood in the Parkland neighborhood. The National Guard was called in to restore peace. 6 black Americans, who later became known as the Black Six, were scapegoated and falsely charged with conspiracy in connection with the unrest and face additional accusations of planning to blow up oil refineries in the West End and destroy private property. Members of the Black Six were Ruth Bryant, James Cortez, Walter T. Pete Cosby, Samuel Hawkins, Manfred Reed, and Robert Kuyu Sims. Some of them barely knew each other, lost their livelihoods, and suffered irreparable harm to their reputations. The criminal conspiracy charges against them were dismissed in 1970 when Judge S. Ruth Nicholson directed a verdict of acquittal, citing a lack of evidence, and threw the case out of criminal court 2, which was then located on Congress Alley. In 2022, Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher issued an apology on behalf of the city to members of the Black Six and their families for the harm inflicted upon them. This marker is dedicated to the Black Six, whose struggle taught us to never give up the battle for dignity and justice. If you do nothing else, stay alive.
If you do nothing else. If you do nothing else.
If you do nothing else.
If you do nothing else.
If you do nothing else.
If you do nothing else.
If you do nothing else.
Stay live.